Well, I tried.
You wanted to do it twice, huh?
Yeah, yeah, kind of looped it in.
That's
So,
all right.
guys,
Right.
how's it
Hey,
going tonight,
everybody.
Good, good, good. Hope everybody's doing well. Everybody in chat, I hope you're doing well. Casey, Vix,
Good to see
Aussie,
everybody.
Aussie. Rick, good to see you, brother. I don't see Big D back yet, but I'm sure he will be.
I'm sure he'll show up. He usually does. Vic BC Live. His T was in earlier. We'll give it a couple of minutes to see what people show up, just in case anybody's interested. I did pin the link to the Bank of Canada survey for all you Canadians that haven't taken the survey yet. I think you'll find after the information, you may want to go do that survey and tell them what you think. Whatever.
Yeah, if you're a Canuck.
If you're
in your other countries, I'm not aware of anything in Australia or here in the States as far as public feedback. Oh, my wife is in the chat. Hey, how you doing, Hugh? How you doing, Mr. Green Thumb?
You. Yeah.
Good to see everybody.
I'm not sure. Some of this stuff we go over this evening will be likely people will know. Maybe everybody will know. In here might know all about CBDCs. But
maybe. I don't think they understand. I don't think a lot of people understand the ramifications of them.
Yeah, and we'll get into that once we kind of explain. It'll be the condensed version of the CBDCs, and we're probably going to touch a little bit on digital ID as well, because they kind of go hand in hand.
Yeah, and then along comes.
Hey Dave. Hey Wanda.
Hey Dave, Wanda. Fun.
How you doing, Georgia Peach, Wanda?
Georgia Peach.
Diamond Art, good to see you.
So,
but one thing I want to say though is, like Brian was talking about the survey at the top. If you are from Canada, go fill that out, and then actually look through the replies. And I'm doubting you're going to find very many replies of people who are for it.
Oh, well, actually, we'll bring up some of the replies on Twitter about the survey. We don't get to see how the survey is going on their website, but we can definitely show some stuff about their
feedback.
The feedback on Twitter.
Good to see you, Coda.
Hey, Miss T. Hey, Coda.
Hey, Scissors.
Oh, Scissors.
And by the way, Scissors, you are not banned on my channel. If you think you are, you are not. I've fixed that. How you doing, James?
Trish.
Hey, Trish. Well.
Yes, everything's good to go, Rick.
I think we can probably start into this. I'm going to bring up, just let me get rid of us there.
And by the way, I must apologize. Brian is going well beyond what I normally do. He's getting way too fancy, folks. So the strictly needs to be redneck. But
he's out doing the Sasquatch.
He found a new toy.
Oh, I found a couple of new toys.
All yours, Brian. I'll add in as you're going, guy.
Yeah. So basically, what is a CBDC? CBD, central bank digital currency, CBDC, is a digital form of national fiat currency that is issued and regulated by the country's central banks or monetary authority. It represents a digital counterpart to physical cash and aims to provide a secure and efficient medium of exchange for electronic transactions, which is basically is what we have with debit cards and credit cards. But we'll get into that just a little bit. We'll get into that just a little bit further down the line.
One thing I'd like to point out, though, is it's still a fiat currency. Don't mistake that this is anything like cryptocurrency.
That's
because it is not. Absolutely is not.
Yeah.
No, it doesn't.
CBDCs are designed to leverage advancements in technology, particularly blockchain or distributed ledger technology, which is
bullshit. Go ahead.
It does work on it. It is similar that it will be on a blockchain. But there's some big subtleties there to enable digital payment, enhance finance inclusion, the potentially offer new features and functionality. While the specific characteristics of CBDCs can vary depending on the country and implication, they generally share some common features.
Would you like me to read this, Brian?
Sure, if you don't mind.
Yes, no problem. Issued and regulated by central banks, CBDCs are created and controlled by the central bank or monetary authority of a country. This ensures that the currency maintains its stability, integrity, and trustworthiness. Legal tender. CBDCs are recognized as legal tender just like physical currency. They hold the same status and can be used for various transactions, including payments, savings, and settlements. Anything you want to talk about on that real quick or no?
Now, this is what we're getting from the official, what a CBDC is from the central bank, basically.
Oh, okay. So this is their take on what it is.
This is their take on what it is.
All right, digital representation of fiat currency, CBDCs, are directly linked to the national currency and serve as a digital representation of it. They are typically issued in a 1-to-1 ratio with physical cash. Okay, that's kind of strange. But digital accessibility to CBDCs are accessible through digital wallets and digital accounts, allowing individuals, businesses to hold and transact in digital currency using smartphones, computers, and other digital devices.
Basically the same, as any of your Google Pay, your debit card,
it's the same thing as like Bitcoin. You have a digital wallet, things like that.
Yeah, except right now you can't go into a store and, well, there are off ramps coming for digital currency where you can actually go to the store and pay.
Yeah,
well, no. Let's make that distinction. There are off ramps for cryptocurrency.
Yeah,
that's a different thing than digital currency. Much different.
Yeah. So basically,
they're not the same thing. So please make that clear.
Yeah. So. So they are not the same thing, and here's a couple of reasons why. Have at her.
All right, a central bank digital currency, CBDC, can be either programmable or non-programmable, referring to the features and capabilities it offers. Here's the difference between the two.
Yeah. Now that's a big thing.
Yeah. We'll dive in a little bit different, unless we want to dive in right now, Brian, about what being programmable and non-programmable means.
Well, let's go to slide 1.
Okay. Non-programmable CBDCs, a non-programmable CBDC is designed to function similar to physical cash. Bullshit. It serves as a digital representation of a nation's fiat currency and maintains a fixed value. Bullshit. Non-programmable CBDCs are typically centralized and issued and regulated by a central bank or monetary authority. Transactions involving a non-programmable CBDC are relatively simple, allowing users to transfer funds electronically but without additional programmable functionalities. So essentially what that boils down to is that basically you're just having an electronic dollar or whatever your gas currency or pound or whatever, depending on what you call your currency. Meaning it really is just a digital form. It's no different than using your debit card, basically.
Yeah.
There's no extra functionality to it or anything. No difference whatsoever.
No. So, but then you get into
programmable CBDC. A programmable CBDC, also known as a programmable money or smart money, incorporates additional features beyond basic currency exchange. It leverages blockchain or distributed ledger technology to enable programmability, which means the currency's behavior and conditions can be customized based on predefined rules or code. Programmable CBDCs have the potential to support more complex transaction automation and the execution of conditional payments. Let me point out one thing, a couple things about this. Let's start right at the bottom. The execution of conditional payments. Now, that can mean many, many, many things.
Yeah.
Let's try some examples here if we have them.
We do have some. We're going to tie this all together as we go further.
Yeah. The conditional thing, meaning, how you doing, Tracy's Nature? Meaning that, let's say for instance, they want to spur the economy in a certain area. The only thing they've got to do is have your money sunset, meaning expire. That if you don't use it, you lose it.
Yeah,
or it be tied to certain products.
Certain products, certain locations.
Certain locations, yes. Like this whole idea of a 15-minute city, they can do that just through your currency that say you can't spend any money outside of the area you're allowed to do it in.
Yeah, I'd just like to answer Pooh Scissors' question. How does it maintain a fixed value? Well, it maintains the fixed value the same way a dollar bill, fiat currency.
Yeah, that's wiggle words. It really doesn't. It's no different than a fiat currency when it comes to inflation.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't mean that a digital currency is going to hold more value than a paper currency. It's just basically a one-to-one exchange, but you just don't have anything physical in your hands.
That's right. It's the same as having your debit card in your wallet.
Yeah, exactly the same.
I lost you there for a second, Brian.
Oh, I say it's the same as having your debit card in your wallet, right?
Yeah, pretty much. As far as the currency going up and down in value, as far as purchasing power, it's no different. That's. I wish you'd have left that slide up, Brian. The thing about that is, when it comes to programmability, it leaves open so many options for the people in control of it to control what you can or cannot do with your perceived money.
And that's the whole point of this.
And that is the whole point.
Yeah, and we're gonna actually tie this all together after a few more slides.
Okay, you want to talk about this more? Or you want to move on, Brian?
I think we'll move on because there'd be a lot to talk about in the last presentation.
All right.
We're just gonna move on to quickly. I'm sure everybody has a good idea of what a digital ID is.
A digital ID typically consists of a set of electronic credentials or attributes that are uniquely identify an individual or entity. These credentials can include personal information such as name, date of birth, address, and other identifying details. Digital IDs are often associated with the specific individual's public key infrastructure, a PKI, which includes a public key for encryption and corresponding private key for decryption.
Yeah. And it's the other identifying details that people really need to be concerned about.
Yeah, like biometrics.
Yeah. Just about. Here's a. Okay, I'm just gonna do this. I'm gonna bring up. So in Ukraine, they actually have now a digital ID. They managed to put that in through the war, and we have this one of the senators, Colin Deacon, one of our Canadian senators, who is, just let me bring up his.
I'll be back 1 minute, Brian.
Yeah. So, Senator of Canada. So this is Colin Deacon. He's a senator out of Nova Scotia. He's deputy chair of the Senate Committee of Banking, Trade and Commerce. Just for people in Canada, it is the Senate who introduces bills on banking in Canada. Now, he was on a YouTube video talking with somebody from the Ukraine who instituted the digital ID in the Ukraine, and this is this guy talking about it. Hopefully, it doesn't go all choppy.
And not digital documents in our focus. We work on the services in the smartphone. I will not stop deeply here on this point, but I would like to say that the public services should be convenient, always should be convenient in a mobile application, and we usually work on simplifying it because we have the connections to the registries. And for example, when person wants to apply through our application to any public service, of course, we do not have to ask the name or the passport data or tax data or kids data of this person, of course. Or if, for example, the application form requires to have the property information from this person, we do not have to ask this information from the person. We can pre-fill this information because we have already the record information in the registry about it. So making convenient services and user-centric services in account should not mean just having the digital documents, of course. This means that you have to care and work deeply.
That should pretty much says it all there.
Yeah. One thing I'd like to address that Pooh Scissor says, if they regulate where and when you can spend, it will just spawn black market cryptocurrencies, and the current established ones will skyrocket in value. And he says, buy them up now. Now, that may be true on the surface, Pooh Scissors. But what I want you to understand is every country can make digital cryptocurrency illegal with the brushstroke of a pen.
Yeah.
So you need to keep that in mind. Don't get me wrong, I'm not trying to shit all over cryptocurrency. But what I'm saying is if they deem that they don't want you to use it, they'll just make it illegal. And they'll make the price of that illegal being so high that nobody's going to want to risk it.
Yeah, I mean, I've been dealing with cryptocurrency for a lot of years, and as long as you're inside the cryptocurrency wall, it's easy to get money into cryptocurrency. It's not so easy to get it off.
Yeah.
And if the government wants to, they'll just say no. It's a cryptocurrency is illegal to use, and then you can't bring it back into their world, so to speak.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it won't matter where you try to redeem it. If you try to do it even in a different country, even. Just so everybody knows that the way things run now, if they get digital currency, in my opinion, across most of the Western world, crypto will be made illegal. You can bet on it.
Yeah.
Or they'll take it and they'll force all the big ones to pull out, and they'll just crash it, and it'll end up being worthless, and then they'll just turn around, like I said, make it illegal.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
Yes, and again, I shall restate, crypto is not this digital currency that we are talking about at the moment.
Yeah.
They are two very separate
Okay, it
things.
says here are some key downsides associated with programmable CBDCs.
Oops, that's my cue.
That's your cue, Brian. While digital IDs offer various benefits, they also come with certain downsides and concerns. Here are some of the downsides associated with digital IDs. Privacy concerns. Digital IDs can raise privacy concerns as they involve the collection, storage, and sharing of personal information. There is a risk of unauthorized access, data breaches, or misuse of personal data associated with digital IDs. Adequate safeguards and robust privacy protection measures are crucial to address these concerns. And as we all know, all the governments don't give two shits about your privacy or your concerns.
Especially your concern. Well, both, right?
Yeah. Centralization of control. This is the biggie. Digital ID systems are often managed by centralized authorities or organizations. This centralization can raise concerns about the concentration of power and control over individuals, identities, and data. It is important to ensure transparency, accountability, and proper governance in management of digital ID systems. Right, like the government will never abuse anything like that.
No.
Exclusion and accessibility. Digital ID
Yeah.
systems may exclude certain individuals or groups who do not have access to the necessary technology or infrastructure required for digital identification. This can lead to a digital divide, where those without digital IDs may face barriers in accessing online services or participating in digital transactions. Ensuring inclusivity and accessibility is crucial to avoid marginalization.
Haven't they already done that?
Yeah,
Other ways already? They've already proven that they do that.
It's already here.
Yeah.
Consent and control over personal data. With digital IDs, individuals may have limited control over their personal data and how it is used. It is important to establish clear consent mechanisms and empower individuals to manage, control their digital identities and associated information. Sure.
Yeah.
Was that something off a site, Brian, or?
Yeah, it's just information I gathered from all over the place.
Okay, so basically how they're trying to sell this.
Yeah,
Okay.
So those are basically some of the those are the downfalls. We can so what I didn't get to is 15-minute cities. And we all know, they want 15-minute cities because it's so convenient for you to
live your life outside of 15 minutes.
Live your life out of 15 minutes, which brings us to this part of the presentation. where we'll probably spend a little more time talking about it.
Recognizing the signs that a worst case scenario involving digital ID CBDCs in 15-minute cities is starting to unfold can be challenging, but there are some indicators to watch out for, and here are a few possible warning signs. Increasing surveillance. If you notice a significant increase in surveillance measures, such as widespread CCTV cameras, facial recognition technology, or monitoring of online activities, it could be a sign that privacy and personal freedoms are being compromised.
Yeah.
Boom.
Well, we are
That's
we
already
are
happening.
YouTube. We are YouTube friendly, and that's why the wording.
Hey, can I say YouTube go blow me?
You sure?
Allegedly. Allegedly.
I mean, we see this happening all over the place. For me to go visit my mother-in-law, I had to actually stand in front of an iPad and register. The first time I went, it took my picture, and then the second time I go in, I just go stand in front of this thing, and then there's your facial recognition technology. That's to get into a senior center. You see CCTV cameras all over the place. They're going up daily all over the place.
It's called social conditioning.
Yeah.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
They're going to take the most mundane and start there, or the most vulnerable. And I don't know if anybody's watched some of the videos out of China, because they're actually doing that in many places in China now.
Oh yeah.
And it's insane. They literally have roadblocks set up that if you don't have the QR code or you're not allowed out of your area, you don't leave that area.
Yeah.
It don't matter if your mother, brother, aunt, and uncle's dying or anything. They don't care. Those are the things that a digital currency is going to bring about, because there's no other way for them to implement it. They're not going to allow you to be not anonymous with a digital currency like cryptocurrency is. And even cryptocurrency, you're really not anonymous.
No, not all.
That's a misnomer that a lot of people believe.
Yeah, not all cryptocurrencies are decentralized.
No.
Well, they're not anonymous either. Some people believe that they are, but they are not.
Yeah, every transaction is on the blockchain for sure. They just can't trace it back to a certain wallet. But they can.
Oh, they can. That's been done, Brian.
Yeah.
If you have access to it, the interior blockchain, you most certainly can.
Mm-hmm. You can.
Yeah.
So I guess the big takeaway that we really should discuss here is that, let me ask everybody this: what benefit do you really think a digital currency is going to have in your life, outside of what you already have with your debit cards and your credit cards, or your Apple iPay, or your PayPal, or any number of money transaction utilities that we have?
There's really no other benefit.
Well, now let's look at
the average. Not for
Go
the
ahead,
average
Dan, I
Joe.
don't mean to cut you off.
Not for the average Joe. There's really no other benefit. The benefits are more for other factions of society, shall we say?
Yeah.
Now the other thing about that is, it really isn't going to make anything that we do in our day-to-day lives any more convenient, or any less more of a hassle, and it offers absolutely nothing as a benefit. What it does do, though, is it gives governments and central organizations of control in governmental organizations the ability to control where you go, what you do, what you buy, and what you essentially have in wealth.
Yeah.
Because if they don't want people to accumulate any wealth, they just make your wages expire or your bank account expire, which would be akin to like a reverse interest rate, which they have done in other countries. That has happened. The other benefit that they have is they can no longer have what's called a bank run, where all of a sudden, if a bank is going down or something's happening,
Yeah.
you have no recourse to get your money at all.
So, on to the next one.
Restricted information flow. In a worst case scenario, the government might restrict or control access to information. Censorship, media manipulation, and limitations of free speech can be indicators of a deteriorating system. Huh.
Boom.
Never heard that
all
one
I'm
before.
Gonna say. Boom is all I'm going to say to that one.
Practice room. That's called standardization. That's the idea behind central currency.
It's called putting everything under one umbrella. It's called the loss of sovereignty for countries, is what it's called.
Yeah. So as you can see, you know, the restriction information flow. These, I mean, I think everybody's experienced that over the last number of years. These are all just signs that something could be going on.
Allegedly.
Allegedly.
Mandatory digital identification. The implementation of mandatory digital identification system, especially if it becomes excessively invasive and tracks every aspect of an individual's lives, may indicate the erosion of personal privacy and freedoms. I did read the previous comment, TPR. You're talking about the benefits of not having to be a computer genius to buy RAM, but that's not the point. That's not even closely akin to the same thing, because what you're saying is it's to take and do where it becomes a ubiquitous standards across the world. And that is a big warning sign that you're in trouble. What may be good for industry is not good for people in governance.
We're trying to see relevancy where there is none in that one.
There is no benefit when it comes to that TPR.
Exactly.
I mean, the last time I checked, when I sent money to a different country, exchange rates worked just fine.
Yeah.
What they want to do is homogenize everything across the planet. Essentially. So everybody falls under the same umbrella. Which, if they bring in a digital currency, they're going to have to bring in a digital ID, because they're going to claim, well, we got to know, we got to be able to verify your account and all this, right? We wouldn't want somebody mistaking Dan Kiwi for Brian, you know. Dan's.
Now that would be funny.
Well, the problem is, Dan, when you invite somebody to barbecue, you're really inviting someone to barbecue. Well, essentially, Pooh Scissors,
You've cut out a little, Robert.
yeah, no, I was reading real quick. And TPR, you're not totally wrong when it comes to that. But it's just like anything else. When centralization comes into anything, it's never a good thing. Never has been, never will be.
Yeah, we missed some of what you said before, Robert. You were addressing the one particular comment there to do with the one world.
One world currency,
yeah.
an ID.
No,
Well, like I said, it is essentially If you have a digital currency that is homogenous across most countries, it boils down to this: who runs your countries? Do you really think your politicians do?
Yeah.
Or is it the central banks? And the IMF, which has no allegiance to any country whatsoever, hence the name International Monetary Fund, they really don't care about any individual country. They care about their system in general.
Yeah.
And TPR is correct. He says he thinks that the Convoy bank account seizures proved what will happen. He's absolutely correct.
Yep, exactly.
Yeah.
And that's part of what we're getting at when it comes to centralization of something like this. Where he's talking before about different systems and stuff like that. Not everybody accepts everything, like Visa, MasterCard, shit like that. Not that I personally think you should be using those damn things. I would get the hell away from credit cards. But the point of the matter is that once that becomes a ubiquitous centralized things across many countries, they literally control the people of those countries at a whim.
I'm gonna address Coda's comment. He says the practice room. That's why we can do mail and cash in hand. I was hoping somebody would bring that up. And just let me go and get this here. So if you want to read that.
It says issuing a CBDC in practice would be unlikely to help the central bank improve the effectiveness of a monetary policy. One difficulty is that in order for a central bank to realize any potential monetary policy benefits, the CBDC would have to be able to bear interest, positive or negative. Keep that in mind there. And cash would have to be removed or have its use restricted.
That's from the Bank of Canada. That is right from the horse's mouth.
So basically what it says is for that system to work, they'll have to remove cash. So the whole idea that Coda just brought up is now defunct.
Yeah.
Which is the point Brian brought it up. Which is the reason why Brian brought it up.
So if people think they're going to be able to store enough cash away and be able to use it, I think maybe I don't believe that will. From the looks of it, it can't run hand in hand. Now I could be wrong.
No, it won't be run hand in hand.
Well, the statement that was read just then did say for that system to work, they're going to have to control cash.
Yeah.
So
here's a little thing.
It will appear to be running side by side, but one will be made far less effective, so the other can work.
So they did a test run in Nigeria, and so this is one of the things that if you want to read that.
Read which one, Brian? Okay.
That's highlighted.
Yep. Without popular public traction, and lacking both key benefits of Bitcoin and support for retail banking systems, Onera has flopped.
Anera was their CBDC.
Yeah. The Onera failed because it wasn't a real digital currency, said head of Fast Forward, a Nigerian innovation and startup funding hub. Non-programmable, not centralized post-minting, no exchanges. It was another version of a cashless Naira at best. A branding exercise. In short, Nigeria's CBDCs failed to solve the problems that Bitcoin does.
So
I just saw Coda's comment there, and you are correct, Coda. You can't, and that's part of the problem. That's the elephant in the rope scenario, right? People don't act anymore. They don't take action, but they're they feel more than free and do have the right to moan, but no action's been taken. So you are correct. How do we fix that? I'm not sure how.
Well, more people have to be engaged. People say that politicians don't listen. Oh, yes, they do. If enough people put the pressure to them. How you doing, Tony? Good to see you.
Hey, Tony.
Yeah, and there's a lot of comments being made about things that's very true. Corporate welfare systems, big dice, you're right, and unions will, with their members, tell them it's all great and all that happy shit.
yeah.
Well, there's more to it than that, TPR, when it comes to Bitcoin.
Yep.
All right, centralized control of financial transactions. If the government introduces a fully centralized CBDC, that grants them complete visibility and control over all financial transactions. It could be a sign of increasing authoritarian control and loss of financial privacy and financial freedom. And the other thing, too, is they're going to use that to capture taxes on the most mundane of transactions. If you go and buy your neighbor's lawnmower, guess what? You're going to pay a tax on it. And so's your neighbor.
That's not the point, TPR.
Yeah.
Not at all.
So the idea behind this, when they come to central digital currencies, there is no intrinsic benefit beyond what the system we already have. Be it if you don't want to use cash, you don't have to. You can use your credit cards or debit cards every day, just like anything else. The only difference being is that if you're using cash in a system, you can do so without the whims of a government. That's the thing that I think people really should be focused upon, is the fact that you're going to lose the freedom of choice at any point in time you want to. It also introduces a lot of other things beyond that. It will bring in digital IDs, which you will actually be monitored in everything that you do. If you think you won't be, you're sadly mistaken. And it will get eventually, through social pressure and things that they'll do, when they bring in the digital currency, they'll say, well, we can still use cash side by side. We're not trying to get rid of cash. Well, sure they will. They'll just tell stores you can no longer accept cash. Or a corporation will magically no longer accept cash. And that's the point, Canadian, that I'd like to. I'll make this real point real quick, and that's part of why I was saying when it comes to cash, a lot of banks now are limiting the amount of cash that you can get. If I walked into my bank and said, "Hey, I want to pull my bank account all in cash," they would look at me like I was a space alien. But in all intents and purposes, that's my right. I don't need a cashier's check from them, which they claim is as good as cash. No, it's not. It absolutely is not.
It's quite funny you
You know,
mentioned that, Robert.
if I want to go out and take out $10,000 of cash to go buy a used car or a motorcycle or something, that's my business.
It's quite
Not
funny
theirs.
that you mention. It's quite funny that you mention that scenario, because recently I've just had something happen with one of my accounts, which was in credit, and I couldn't access it. They wouldn't allow me to, even though it was mine.
But it isn't yours.
Exactly my point, Brian.
People don't realize that when you put money in the bank, is that it's their money with basically a note to pay you back.
Exactly the point I was making.
Yeah.
Well, the difference is though it's an on-call thing, Brian, or it's supposed to be.
Yeah.
If I want to walk into a bank and say, "Hey, give me all my money back," they should abide by that. It's no different if I had a safety deposit box and I had a bunch of gold in there. Are they going to tell me I can't come and take my gold to the safety deposit box?
No.
It's akin to the same thing, Brian.
I can understand if you're going to the bank, I understand that they don't carry a lot of cash on them. They might have to bring it in. I can sort of kind of understand that, but I can't understand the questioning of why you want to take it out. There should be absolutely no question on why you want your money.
That should never matter at all. It should never even be asked.
Yeah, that's the thing, and a lot of them now are. I know banks around here, the smaller ones, are restricting it to a $600 cash pull. And what really cracks me up is if you go in and ask and say, "Hey, I want to pull out $5,000 or $10,000," and their first question, "Well, why do you need that?" My point is, it's none of your goddamn business why I need it. What it boils down to this is the politicians and the big corporations and the monetary systems, they want to be able to control everything in your aspect of life so they can be the crooks of everything. That's what it boils down to. They want to control every aspect of your life, where you go, what you do, what you spend.
Yeah. So back to the topic at hand.
That is the topic at hand. All right, suppression of dissent. If there is an increase in the suppression of dissenting voices such as political activists, human rights defenders, or journalists, it could be an indication of an oppressive regime attempting to silence opposition. Gee, we haven't seen that in the past 3 or 4 years, have we?
No, not at
all. Do you really want me to answer that?
That was a little tongue-in-cheek there, Dan.
Exactly.
Yeah, yes, practice room. They still have to give you your cash, but they shouldn't have to. They should have. It's absolutely none of their business on what you're going to do with your cash.
Correct. Unless there's suspicion of some type of wrongdoing, like someone's got a gun to the back of your head or something like that, then really what you're doing with your money is your business and not theirs. That's something that, in times past, it used to be that your money, which, kind of equated to wealth, which money no longer is wealth at all. If you're holding money, you're actually losing wealth.
Yes, you are.
Mm-hmm. That is correct.
Every day. Um, you know, the thing is they're going to play this off on everything that they can do and tell people that it's the next best great thing to slice bread. When in all actuality, if you sit and think about it, they are creating a system that we already have in a fiat currency, which does not benefit the population at all. It only benefits the upper echelon, the very, very upper echelon, and the banking system. Globally, not just locally or whatever, but globally. You know, don't blame your little local bank that's privately owned, because they aren't the ones doing this shit.
Yeah.
But what it boils down to is, if this comes across and takes hold in most of the Western world, it's game over. It won't matter what your politics are. It won't matter what you believe or what you want to do, because anything that you want to do will be stopped instantly. They'll just shut you off. And then you can say, well, my family will help me. Well, no, because they'll just shut your family off, because anybody that believes that our current political climate gives two shits about the people, you're sadly mistaken.
Yeah.
They're already proven that they don't.
And I'm going to turn this over to you, Brian, for 1 minute. I got to let a dog in.
Okay. Is this where I'm at here? Yeah. So socioeconomics inequities. If the 50-minute city concept is distorted, leading to significant disparities in access to resources, services, and amenities, it can be deepened socioeconomically inequities to indicate an oppressive system that benefits a select few at the expense of others.
Boom. Yet again.
We receive no benefits from a digital currency or a digital ID.
Catch you later, Coda. Have a good one.
See you later, Coda.
Well, that may be true, Arnie, but there's two states right now that have banned the use of CBDCs in the United States, Florida and Indiana. And there's about 6 or 7 other ones that are going to be following suit soon. So it doesn't have to be a majority of states, but if a substantial amount of states tell them to go get bent, they're not going to take a foothold here in the States.
Yeah.
They won't be able to do it because the system would be so disjointed that it'll be unmanageable, which is fine with me.
Fine by me too.
Hey, Aussie.
I guess that's where us having all these smaller states is a benefit compared to larger countries that have, you know, provinces like Canada or Australia or New Zealand, where they don't have any states. They're all one big lumped in together.
One state, one single state country.
Well, I mean, Canada has its provinces. They're supposed to have say over some stuff, but it just doesn't seem to be happening.
Well, it's too centralized to make a difference. If you have 1 out of 6 dissenting, that's nothing. But if you had 20 out of 50 dissenting, then that becomes a problem. Do you see the difference?
Yeah.
You know, there was one point in time they bandied about this idea of breaking the United States up into 5 zones instead of having states. They wanted to have 5 zone areas, kind of similar to Canada or Australia.
Yeah.
And that got shot down big time because that didn't pass the sniff test. Yes, boosters, it is kind of the same. The only difference, what I'm pointing out is means that they're larger and cover a more area and more people per capita, not necessarily more people in general, but just more people per capita against the total population. When you have less ability for smaller groups to do
Well, I mean, an example, if you took
here, like I said, 20 out of 50.
if you took Manitoba, Saskatchewan, Newfoundland, New Brunswick, Nova Scotia, Prince Edward Island, and they objected to something, it would mean nothing, absolutely nothing.
Yeah, and I agree with you, Arnie. It isn't the governments that need a dissent; it's the people. And there is certain states here that already have, like I said, Florida, Indiana have actually banned CBDCs to be used in their states. So it is the government and the people from those states. So don't think your state can't represent you if they're pushed hard enough, because they will. And that's for just people in the United States. For people in Canada or other countries, that's up to you to shake the rattle of the cages of your politicians.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're absolutely correct, Big Dice. That's why there's another thing about centralization of power to unelected bureaucrats. The IMF. What does the IMF offer any country at all other than a system of currency? They offer no value. They input nothing into those systems. They offer nothing of value to the people of those countries, but yet they control our monetary systems. And it's the same thing with the World Health Organization. Unelected bureaucrats, which with no allegiance to any country other than their own entity themselves. And they're supposed to be controlling our systems of how we live? I don't think so.
Well, the practice at TPR, I certainly hope the election goes the way we're all hoping. Because if Alberta goes the way of NDP, we're headed down a really dark road.
Well, I've seen enough just today to know that we're headed down some dark road. One that actually has me really disturbed, more so than even this. I didn't think that was possible. I guess the thing it comes down to, folks, is that there isn't very many people who are banning about the benefits of this whole idea of a centralized currency, or digital currency, excuse me. But the propaganda that we're hearing, all about the benefits and how great it is and all that stuff, when we've seen what governments will do in action, how they will shut down and freeze people's bank accounts, how they will lock people up for doing something as simple as feeding homeless people. Did you ever think you'd hear that in your life, that you get arrested for feeding homeless people?
Yeah.
And to think that it will be used for the benefit of the people, extremely, extremely wrong.
Yeah, it's sad, TPR, when you gotta pick the best out of the worst.
All right. Limited mobility and restricted travel. Gee, where have we heard this one before? Increasing restrictions on domestic or international travel, border controls, and limitations on movement within the country can be indicators of a regime seeking to control the population's mobility and limit the interaction with the outside world. Well, that's pretty obvious.
Yeah.
Where have we seen this in the past few years?
Yeah.
Let me think.
Yeah. Any Canadians in here will certainly recognize that one.
Anybody from any country will recognize that one, albeit at different levels in different places, depending on people's ability to tell them to go F off.
Yeah.
Albeit that was different levels in different countries. I mean, some of the stuff I've seen go on in different countries, if they would have tried that here, would have turned into a, yeah, I won't say what it would turn into. We all know what it would turn into.
It would have been missing.
Yeah. So
All
just,
right.
just to remember what these slides are all about.
All right. Recognizing the signs of the worst case scenario involving digital ID, CBDCs and 15-minute cities is starting to unfold and can be challenging, but there are some indicators to watch out for. Here are a few possible warning signs.
So yeah, we're back to
We
that.
already did the limited mobility, the lack of transparency and accountability. We've already done this one, Brian, I believe. Oh, maybe not. Okay.
No.
If the government becomes increasingly opaque with limited transparency in the decision-making process and lack of accountability for its actions, it can indicate a shift towards authoritarianism and a disregard for democratic principles. Yes.
And we've seen the lack of accountability all over the place in every country.
Yep. Absolutely.
And you see that, sadly, a lot in general society too.
And it's been proven over the past 4 years that even politicians who you think may have had your best interest at heart, either they're easily manipulated or they aren't who they perceive or proclaim themselves to be.
Yeah.
Exactly, TPO.
Yeah.
Well, kind of big dice. May I point out J6? And now we're finding out that there was allegedly, I'll say, over 100 federal agents and confidential informants involved in all that, possibly up to hundreds. We don't know yet because the FBI won't release 11,000 hours of footage because they claim it will reveal the identities of their assets. You know, their ways and means, whatever. Erosion of civil liberties. I'm tied there for a second. Any erosion of fundamental civil liberties such as freedom of speech, assembly, and association can be a clear warning sign that individual rights are being suppressed and an authoritarian regime is tightening its grip on power. Huh. Things that make you go,
More like things that may go more than
I don't think I need to elaborate on that one.
No, not at all.
As they say, some things are self-evident.
Yeah. So there's basically two things that are going to be coming at us rather quickly. One is CBDCs, the other is the digital ID.
And they're going to do that through healthcare. You watch.
No,
I shouldn't say it. They'll do it through digital currency if they can get it passed through. If they can't, they'll try to take and slam it through healthcare. You watch, one way or another.
In Canada, they already did.
Mm-hmm. Same here.
Through the pandemic.
Mm-hmm.
We had QR codes that had to be displayed.
A lot of the things that you just spoke about through these slides, like Brian had just stated, have already been implemented here in New Zealand through said pandemic. So
yeah, and that's crazy, Dan. The amount of authoritarian stuff that got passed in New Zealand is insane. Same thing with other places in Australia.
Yep. In Canada.
Yeah, well, Canada's already well. I'm not going to say what they're already well on their way for. All I can say is Canadians need to speak up now. There is no second chance here.
Well, I'm up to responses from 7 MPs now.
Well, good.
Yeah, I got another response today.
Were they blowing smoke, or did they actually say something worth substance?
They actually said something worth substance, and maybe next week we'll show some of the emails that came back.
All right, that'd be cool.
I will have to probably block the names for now, but
all I can say to that, Brian, is that's evidence that speaking up does work.
Yes.
Yeah.
Even if it's in a little way, it does work. Well, yeah. That's just like that International COVID Summit being put in front of the European Parliament. That was well received. Although I find it kind of ironic how it's being basically black-holed, like it doesn't exist. Big dice, that's kind of true, but it's not at the level of an actual digital ID.
Yeah, this is streets above that.
You can shut your phone off and say, screw it, I don't want one. Which, actually, believe it or not, a few of my friends are doing. I'm quite surprised that a few of them are just taking their cell phones and tossing them. They're done with them. They're finding that the convenience isn't worth what they're having to give up. Whereas with a digital ID, if they pass that, you won't be able to do that. That's the thing.
Yeah.
And Arnie, you're very correct. All these things that people take convenience, they don't realize what you're giving up by doing it.
Now here's convenient. It's so much more convenient to look at your smartwatch than take your phone out of your pocket. That's just downright. That's just downright stupid.
Well, that's what they want you to believe, Big Dice. It's a way of scaring people into submission. And let's be honest, it's worked all over the world. It's worked. So speak up.
Yeah, it's either speak up or give up, one of the two.
No practice room because I've already been back in contact with these MPs. So I know they came from who they came from.
And the rebuttal to TPR, who have you emailed? What politician have you emailed recently?
So, but I guess the big takeaway is this, and we could talk about, like, I could bring up a bill right now where a lot of banks in Australia and in the UK, which I find quite hilarious because somebody told me this wasn't going on in the UK, but I got a video from the banks up there that are limiting people's cash, that they actually state that they're doing this to usher in the whole idea of digital currency. They want people getting used to using plastic, which most people already are. Which the convenience of that is understandable. But on the surface, that's great. But when you start talking about a centralized authority controlling this stuff, it's a whole different ballgame.
Awesome work, Casey. I've spoken with my local politicians and actually emailed every single politician in New Zealand. So great work. So my question to TPR was, what politician have you emailed recently? How have you spoken up in rebuttal to Brian's statement? That was my question.
Well, I've had 3 of them on the phone, and 4 of them I've corresponded a few times through emails.
Yeah, I've got 2 now that won't return my phone calls.
Yep, that happens.
They just happen to be on the, shall we say, on the other party line. They don't much like my opinions. Is there anything that we need to add that's not obvious, Brian?
I'm not sure.
Just that we need to start speaking up to our representatives. If we can't hold them accountable, then we're going to be screwed.
Yeah, and I need to reinforce this. It doesn't matter what your political beliefs are or what your religious beliefs are or anything like that. If you think at this point in time what's going on is going to benefit you, you're sadly mistaken, because the very same things that you perceive as being used against the people you don't like are the very same things that are going to be used against you. And that's historically been proven time and time again. Yep. Everything from the Bolshevik Revolution to the takeover of the Third Reich in Germany, and every other piss-poor war in between, or every other country that's been taken over by a despot or a dictatorship. You're correct, Canadian. Arnie, evil don't care about accountability.
Well, I guess what I get most, it's to the point of angry that people keep saying things like, "Oh, it'll do nothing. You won't get anywhere. Don't vote. Don't do this. There's no use in doing this." Well, I tell you what, if that's the case, you're absolutely guaranteed that nothing's going to change.
Correct.
If you do nothing, you get nothing.
Well, if you don't make your choice and have your voice heard, somebody else will do it for you.
Yeah.
And they're not necessarily going to be saying the things that you would. Cindy, you are absolutely correct. It's almost like they're using the playbook play by play. And every despotic takeover has happened the same way throughout history. And we're seeing that now. If you're not seeing that, then you need to open your eyeballs. Open your ears.
Well, TPR, that's the problem. The entire country didn't go against TPR. Everybody spent all their time sitting on their computers, talking about it, and nobody did anything about it. That's the problem.
Yes, the very statement Coda made before.
Yeah, and Arnie, I totally agree with you, and I am prepared for what could be reality, but I'm not about to give up. I'm not about to lie down and give up at this point.
No. If you're going to lie down and give up, you might as well prepare for one thing, and you aren't going to like what that one thing is. This road leads to one place, and one place only.
Exactly, TPR. And that very same thinking is rife around the world.
So, but anyways, as I said,
Yeah.
people do what you can. Every little bit helps. Inform people. Talk to them. That's another thing that we've been conditioned to do these past few years is not to talk to people. Everybody's being taught to hate everybody else.
Gets us nowhere.
Yes, which gets us absolutely nowhere. And there's a lot of people who are still bought into that. You know, make no mistake, we're in for a fight, no doubt. We are in for a fight for where humanity goes. To think otherwise would be foolish. Because this isn't just one country. It isn't just one state. It isn't one town. It's all of us. So either we can step up and decide where our future goes, or allow unelected bureaucrats to do it for us. That's what it boils down to.
Yeah, we're in a tough part of the world, TPR, because all decisions are made east of Manitoba.
It is rough. It's not going to be rough. It is rough right now. It's going to get even rougher.
Yeah, for sure. This is the calm before the storm, I'm afraid to say. But on that note, I said what I needed to say.
I think we're pretty much done here, so I'm going to shut this down. Thanks everybody for coming.
Thank you everybody
Hope
for
it was a little bit informative.
Thank you everybody for your input. It's good to have input. So yeah.
Yeah. And on that note, we're going to say goodbye in 3, 2, 1. We're gone.